Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. This week, I want to explore the topic of men and how they play a role in the menstrual cycle. Because the menstrual cycle is happening to us, because it's our hormone buildup, it's our uterus, it's our specific rhythm, and I think because we are the ones that have the physical bleed, we often think that this is an us problem. This is something for us to keep to ourselves. And, to be honest, society has really set us up to believe that anything that happens down there is a woman's problem and it should be kept secret and private. And I really feel like this is a huge disservice, mainly because, one, we're creating anxiety and we're creating shame around something that is so biological and something that affects all of us women, that all of us have experienced. And it's what also has brought life into the world. This is something that needs to happen, and that we really should be focused as a society on how to create healthy menstrual cycles, because it does affect our population. It does affect so many different realms of everyday life. And this is why I feel so incredibly passionate about men's roles in understanding the menstrual cycle. Because this doesn't just affect their marriages or their relationship with their teen daughters. This is how they hold relationships with female colleagues, with their sisters, with their mothers. This is something that is so important for them to understand in order for them to live in relationship with the opposite sex. And I think as women, we've been pigeonholed or we've been confined to trying to pretend that we operate like a man and exist in this very one style kind of society. And that doesn't work. It hasn't been working. This is why we're seeing what we're seeing. And this is why, it just blows my mind how many women and teen girls go through extreme menstrual issues, we'll call them, whether that's heavy bleeding, cramping, the period flu, quote unquote. We push through these and pretend like they're not happening. But yet if we actually had the flu, if we actually had a really bad head cold, we would stay home. But yet because it is our bleed days, we have been ingrained to believe and taught that we just pretend like it's not happening and we keep pushing. And this is what is creating burnout in our society. This is what is creating this toxic environment for us to not only, successfully exist in this world with ease, with pleasure, with, achieving our desires, but it's also what is keeping us broken and disconnected. We are truly not living the most inspired life possible because we're not understanding how we can live in a way that really supports our hormone fluctuations. And when we do that, it's mind-blowing how much it changes everything. And a small little example yesterday is, we just finished Canadian Thanksgiving here, and I was in my inner fall, my luteal phase. It's a lot of activity, a lot of socializing. It's a lot of outwardness, and I was in a very inward state. I still enjoyed it. I still really actually felt present and in the moment every day. But by the Monday, I felt so worn out. I was exhausted. And That exhaustion then led to Monday night when I finally had time to myself to stay up way too late um, and in front of the television to like decompress. And so I went to bed too late. I woke up yesterday and I was so edgy. I was so grouchy and so sharp. And I realized in the moment where I felt like I was starting to snap, I actually had a conversation with my children around the fact that I was just worn out and that I was in my inner fall, and that right now what I needed was more quiet time and I needed some alone time to rebalance. And my kids got it. They understood it. You know, they gave me space. They went downstairs to play so I didn't have to hear the fighting. And I went to bed early and I woke up today and I feel completely refreshed. And it's amazing how much sleep was so important during this phase. So the reason why I'm sharing this is just to show how when we are aware of where we are in our cycle and then the events that are surrounding us that we are pushing ourselves to complete or do or be part of, how it impacts us. And then when we have this acknowledgement of it, we can really know our medicine to reset. And this is why I think it's so important for men to start to understand our menstrual cycle. This is like, yes, this is happening in our body, but we are a part of our unit, our family unit, our community, our work unit, whatever it might be. Women are more than 50% of the population, which means that 50% of us are operating differently. And we need the other side to understand what are not necessarily the specifics of our rhythm, but that we have a rhythm and what that looks like. Once you understand the fundamentals of the 4 seasons or the 4 phases of the cycle, you can really read the situation and read people quite well. How they physically hold themselves, how they stand, how they talk, their energy level, their frustration level, all that really just in communication, you can pretty much guess where someone's at. I'm pretty good at guessing where people are at in my life in their cycle by just interacting with them. And then I know how to meet them. And this is the beautiful thing is that once men understand the 4 phases, once they understand our seasons, and it's not even ours, but just in general, then with the people that they are in intimate relationships with, their daughters, their wives or their partners, their sisters, their mothers, those intimate relationships, then they can really hold space and honor what it is that's needed. This is like, I always joke, this is like having a manual. You're having a guide of understanding the people that live in your house that are the opposite sex of you. You have a manual that shows you exactly how they're going to interact. Because the thing is that we are very predictable creatures. Once we understand our rhythm and we start living in alignment with it, we quite honestly follow that same pattern. My same tendencies that I have in my inner fall, rinse and repeat every time. The same thought processes I have, repeat, same time every month. And so just as much as I'm able to catch myself and go, that was way too little sleep in your luteal phase, you need way more sleep. Our body actually needs more REM sleep. And so knowing that, I was able to give myself medicine to balance back out. And so when our partners or the fathers of our daughters start to understand what's happening, they're able to support it in a way. And it's not like they have to totally uproot their life and change everything about it. It's about meeting people with what they need, even if it's just energetically holding space or the words that we choose or the support that they give. It makes a huge difference of what triggers us. And so why I really wanted to share this is, and maybe one of these times I'll be able to have my husband come on, but my husband knows my cycle. He understands if I was to say, I'm in my inner fall, I feel like this is a bad time to have this conversation. He doesn't push the topic. He understands that this is going to end really badly because I'm being super triggered and not in a logical or maybe not in a way that is true in its truest nature would probably be the best way. I'm going to be reacting because of triggers or past stuff. Like I'm not going to be fair to fight with, right? But I think this is even more so, like, I do think that this is really important, and it has been something that has, I personally believe, saved our marriage at times, because when things have gotten really rocky and challenging, which happens in every relationship, I have been able to call upon my cycle to say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I need. And I hear you that you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling this. So I know that I'm best suited to support your needs in this part of my cycle. But right now, where I'm at, I can't do that. Right. And so we have set so many boundaries in our relationship around my menstrual cycle, and it has made it so amazing. It has really helped us. It's given me clarity of, like, when I feel like I want to just say something because I'm frustrated, and being able to hold back, going, no, this is not actually about him or the relationship. This is about your hormones. It's also giving him the tool of knowing when I need things, or when is a good time for him to ask for time for himself, or for us to go on that really nourishing date that's going to be fun and that we're going to laugh a lot. Like, we know the medicine in our relationship, and we're able to use it according to where I'm at in my cycle. So that way we're really getting the best versions of ourselves. And it's quite beautiful, right? In many ways, the menstrual cycle is like a personality test, or like the Enneagram, or is it the Bio-Riggs or whatever. Like, we really get to know and identify more about who we are, because we have this resource that has categorized us. And that's what the cycle has done, is that it categorizes us into 4 different identities. And when we know those 4 identities, we really, truly can flourish. Growing pains, mood swings, and period drama. Yep, your little girl isn't so little anymore. Puberty has arrived. As a parent, it can feel like you're walking on a tightrope. You want to hold her hand, answer her million questions, and create a safe cocoon where her self-esteem blossoms. But how do you do that without making it a big deal? By coming to join us in the Raising Empowered Girls course. This is a 4-week course to help you get all the resources and the tools so that you can feel confident in really holding space and supporting your daughter through this really important transition in her life. So come join us. We get started on October 15th. The link to register is in the show notes below. And so this is important for our relationships. But the thing I'm focusing on a lot lately, and it's something that's been like marinating in my head quite a bit, is the relationship dads have with daughters. And, you know, my 2, I think this has been something I've been thinking about for a while, because I have 2 daughters that, you know, are just on the cusp of coming into puberty. Like, they're not very far away from hitting puberty. And I have a son who's only 4 years old. But I want to create this environment where my girls understand their cycle, where they can use their cycle and know how to ask for what it is that they need, and how to schedule themselves so that they always feel their optimum, that they don't go through those really low lows of depression, worries about self-worth, you know, the pressures of school and grades, the peer pressure, the everything that comes with teenage years. There's so much. Plus, I also want my son to witness what it's like to be in a household, and to witness what it's like to be, I don't even want to just say a father, but a male role in the home, of how you support these shifts and changes, and how it actually really does create way more depth and beauty in relationships. So let's go back to talking about fathers and daughters, and why I think it is so damn important for dads to know about their daughter's menstrual cycle. I know, like, I'm in my 40s now, and I can't imagine myself as a teenager ever talking to my dad about my menstrual cycle. And that's because I was really raised in a home where it was Like, this is something you just don't talk about. I remember hiding my pads at the bottom of the garbage can because I did not want my brother or my dad to know that I was bleeding. Like, it was like something that was supposed to be top secret. And I also remember that when I was really edgy and cranky and just not feeling great in my body, the first thing that they would always say is, "Are you PMSing?" Like, it was like this label that they could throw out that was meant to classify me in a way. And I don't know, like, it's just, it was none of it was of service to me, right? And I think now about how I want my husband, and we've had conversations on this about how important it is for him to know the information, is I think that when we take the shame and the disgust and the all the labels that we have around the menstrual cycle, when we take them away from our teenage girls, it actually makes it so that's not less scary. Like, it's way less scary to talk about it with their dads. I think back to why I shut down all the time is because I was told it was something secretive. So you can't talk about it if it's supposed to be something that's going to disgust them or embarrass them. And so me not openly talking about it was a way to protect the men in my house of feeling uncomfortable. And the thing is that this is just anatomy. It's just anatomy. There's like, this is something that's going to happen in their life every month. It is so biological. It's no different than us going to the bathroom or brushing our teeth. Like, this is a routine that's happening in our body. So the power that I believe that you can gain by talking about this openly in your homes and really getting dads involved is, one, it increases self-worth. When girls are starting to doubt themselves, or when they get a bad grade, or when they're just in that low of the second half of the cycle, having a dad who's aware of the menstrual cycle can really support her. He can really encourage her at the times when encouragement is needed, and maybe hold off on the dad jokes or the things that are going to trigger her. And so your little girl has most likely really had a deep, unique relationship with their father for a long period of time. And then puberty hits, and it's like there's this severedness that happens where it separates. Now it's like, you are a woman and I can't have that relationship. And knowing her cycle is a way for us to actually deepen that relationship, for us to actually have a more healthy and vital relationship with our daughters. You know, my dad was somebody who, up to the day he died, was somebody I talked to regularly on the phone. I talked to him probably more than my mom. Like, we had a really strong relationship. And towards the end, I was calling myself out on my cycle. I was like, this is information for you. And it was just really beautiful how we could hold spaces for our differences, and how it really did connect us to be open about who we were, rather than living in this cloud of shame, or like we had to hide ourselves. And so with teens in particular, they're battling self-worth stuff every day. And how beautiful it would be for them to come home and at the kitchen table when you guys are talking about stuff, and they are just, you can just see it in their eyes that something's not right, that you can be that confidence builder for them, that you would know what it is that they need in both halves of their cycle. The first half being where they're really outgoing and really spunky, and the second half where they're questioning who they are. They're questioning their relationships with outside people. They are questioning their self-worth, their enoughness. And so this is the one way that dads can support. The second way that dads can really make an impact and change how girls relate to themselves is that it really does deepen that relationship with fathers. I think mothers have a really prime opportunity, if they tap into it, to become anchors in their daughters' lives during puberty, if they can become relatable, if they can be that place where it's safe for girls to talk about what's happening in their body and why they're confused by it, and get their questions answered. But I think that dads can also be that anchor, that dads can have a really strong relationship with their daughters by not layering on the shame, by not judging them for how they're feeling, but actually meeting them where they're at. And understanding that sometimes meeting them is that you both just need space, right? It's like, okay, I get it. You are in your inner winter and you are being super triggered and I'm being a trigger for you. So you know what? I'm sorry, but I'm going to go take some space. I'm going to go and do something else so that way I'm not in your hair versus taking it personally. And so I really feel like by knowing her cycle, you can keep the healthy lines of communication open and really talk to your daughter in a way that helps deepen that respect that you guys have both ways. And then the third, this one's a really important one. I really do believe that if we take the initiative of wanting to understand all aspects of our daughter, when we want to understand the cycle and we show in our home that we're period positive, that we're cycle positive, that, talking about the menstrual cycle is no different than talking about what we're going to have for supper, that it really does strengthen a girl's requirement list. It's a way for her to really see through and strengthen that bullshit radar in her body. Because when she has a positive male role model who respects her shifts and changes, who is willing to listen and understand, and who sees her as her own identity and doesn't try to conform her, she is less likely to tolerate that with any other guy in her life. So if we want our daughters to have, the healthy marriages, the good dating relationships, if we want them to have the confidence to set boundaries and say no and, really not allow themselves to be walked on or to be mistreated. And I'm thinking big here, like if we're thinking about sexual assaults, if we're thinking about teen pregnancies, you're giving your daughter a voice right now by allowing her to be expressive in all 4 phases of her cycle. You're setting the stage that it is safe to use your words, to set boundaries, to know what it is that you want, and that to know that when they do these things, that they're still loved, that they are still worthy, that they're actually more praised for being able to stay authentically to what it is that they want. So if we really do want our daughters to have this big, full life and potentially to have less destruction, less trauma, a place to start might be honoring that they are a woman, that they have a cyclical rhythm, and really knowing what that looks like and the support that they need. I really, really do believe that dads getting to know their daughter's cycles, husbands or partners getting to know their partner's cycles, it changes everything. It makes it so much easier. It really, really does. And it gives space for everyone to uniquely be themselves. Because I think this works both ways, is that when women are seen or given the space to be flexible and fluid in shifting into their 4 different versions of themselves, they're more keen to also give space for their partners, their brothers, the men in their life, more space to fluctuate and be different versions of who they are as well. And so if we really want to start to heal family relationships and we want to keep these strong relationships going through teenage years, through adult years, the work happens now. This is where we have to step up and change. Because I know for my generation, this is when teens started to set boundaries and disassociate from their parents. This is when secrets started to happen. This is when we started living a different life that our parents really, well, at least I don't think they knew about, but maybe they did. I think parents sometimes know more than what they let on. Where I thought that I was living a secret life that my parents weren't aware of. And if I'm being completely honest, during those high school, junior high years, this is where I also felt that I had to fight all my battles alone. And those were some pretty big battles. They were some very big battles, from peer pressure to getting into situations that I had to be really creative of getting out of safely. And this is the reality for most girls. And so if we really want to build those strong relationships, it has to start with understanding that men and women are different. Our hormonal makeup is different, and that we require a longer duration, or we require that 28 days-ish, like approximately, for ourselves to go through a cycle, and reminding the men in our life that theirs is 24 hours, right? And so, honestly, I use this a lot because sometimes, because as women, our cycles are longer. Like when I'm in my inner summer or my inner spring, I have a lot of spunk all the way till bedtime. My husband passes out in the chair every night. Whenever we have movie night with the kids, he's out like a light, right? And it somewhat irritates me because it's like, we're doing family time. Why are you sleeping? But then now, because I have been living cyclically and I understand that their rhythm is cyclically, I often, and I just ended up having this conversation with my kids the other day, is, well, if mommy has an inner fall, this is daddy's inner fall time, right? He's a little tired right now. He's a little run down because of having a full day of activity, and he just needs to rest a little bit so that he feels like he can continue on for the rest of the night. So, it's created space for me to honor him as well as him honor me. So I hope you guys find this helpful. And, it's really awkward to sometimes have those initial conversations with your partner about your cycle, but I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to totally do it. Know that in the Raising Empowered Girls course, we have a whole module for dads. This is great for dads that, where marriages are still together or partnerships are still together. But this is also, I think, so fundamental for separated homes, where your daughter's going to be half the time where you're not, and being able to have a resource or know that their dad has the information to be able to support them, right? Like, we spend so much time co-parenting and setting like the stage for what we both agree upon as what we want how our kids to be parented, but then they get into teenage years, and then this just becomes a mom issue, and then dad never changes, or dad has no awareness, and we have to change our parenting skill in those teenage years. And this is how we can. This is how we can be really supportive. So I feel like this is a really important topic. I feel like it has been a game changer, like I said, in my life. And it's going to be a game changer that I am going to continue to encourage in my daughter's lives. I am going to, whether my husband wants it or not, I am going to gently push him and nudge him that this is the conversations that we're going to have and how we're going to talk about it. And, to really give my daughters and my son the space where they understand what's happening, that if my daughter's bleeding, it's like, no, I don't want you doing dishes. Go rest. Go take care of your body. And for my son not to be like, oh, great, she gets another day off. But instead for him to really understand the benefit of that, right? And then it's like, oh, no, we got this. We're a family unit, right? One member's down, the rest step in. And I really feel like this is the shift that's needed in the world. So hopefully this has been helpful for you and has given you some ideas of how you want to maybe get your partners involved or the dads involved, and to really support our teens in a new, nourishing kind of way to make a huge impact that will last their whole life. Are you excited about aligning to your cycle? If so, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and like the episode if it really resonated with you. Until next time, remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired.